Ah, that's better.
And please feel free. I mean,
Oh,
don't
thank
worry
you.
about it. Yeah.
Now then,
Here we are.
I'm ready if you are.
Okay. Now, obviously, Phoebe, watching you on the stage, the thrill is not gone for you on stage. How have you stayed? And Walter Cronkite has asked you this. Many people have asked you this. How have you stayed on top as king for so long? Do you think?
Well, I think that with people like yourself and other people in the media that have helped, I've got a good manager, I've got good agents, and I think I've got a good band and a little talent with fans that kind of help to motivate you. I believe that's been one of the reasons.
And a lot of modesty too, I might add. But because honestly, you almost single-handedly got the blues going into a national fever, and so people really across the country were knowing the blues and getting into them. Who inspired you to get into this business? Who were some of yours?
Well, people I idolized, one guy was Lemon Jefferson, and I was told he was born blind, so everybody called him Blind Lemon. He was an acoustic guitarist and blues singer. And there was another person called Lonnie Johnson. I like to think of myself somewhat like Lonnie Johnson because Lonnie Johnson was the guitarist as well, played acoustic, and then he was around when the electric guitars came around, so he fell right into that, and he was a good singer, I think, and he seemed to fit in all phases of music. He played with Louis Armstrong, recorded some things with Louis Armstrong. He did something with Eddie Cantor, and he did other with Mahalia Jackson, and you name it, and he did some of it with different people. Well, seemed to me I've been kind of lucky like that. I've been in rock and roll, I've been around in practically anything that you can name, and that's why I say I like to kind of think of myself not as great, but in that category. But I also came up listening to jazz as well. I liked a jazz guitarist called Charlie Christian, another one, a Frenchman called Django Reinhardt, and then finally I heard of a guy playing single-string electric guitar, blues that is. His name was T-Bone Walker, so I went crazy, and I've been crazy ever since.
Still crazy after all these years, right, for another guy. How do you know, BB, when you're on stage, and you do what, an average of 250, almost 275 shows a year, an average?
I think we do more than that, actually, because we're on the road on an average of about 300 days a year.
Wow.
And a lot of those days we're doing 2 shows. Not that we work every day, but
right.
I think we do more than 300.
How do you know in your mind, when you're out on stage, that night you're particularly cooking, or that night, it's a little off, or how do you know? When do you know it?
Well, that's sort of funny that you would ask that, but a lot of times when you are really putting everything you can get, and you think everything is going pretty good, and you look at your audience and they say, you ain't getting over. So I think most times you let your audience dictate what you're doing. But each night you do the best that you can do so you feel good. You'll feel good each time you come off. And you always say to yourself, at least I do, I say, well, I did the best I could do. It wasn't as good as I would like it to be, but it was the best that I could do at that time, and I'm happy with myself because I did put out all I could put out. And usually when you do that, then you're pretty happy with yourself. The nights when the sound system is bad or your amp cuts out, you break 8 strings when you don't carry but 6.
Right, then you're in trouble, right?
Yeah, so you are sometimes embarrassed, even though but then I think what I'm trying to say, even though you've been out there for a long time, it's kind of like Murphy's Law, And how is it, whatever is...
Everything can go wrong.
Yeah. Well, but I think though you become somewhat of a showman. You become somewhat seasoned. You know these things can happen, and when they do happen, you don't panic like a lot of new artists would. So if I break some strings, now I'll just go into a slow tune and study fixed strings and talk to the people and have a little fun with them and give some other. And usually my panic is not shown. Oh, I'm embarrassed and hurt and a few other things,
Right.
but you just don't see it.
Well, that's the years in the business that pays
I
off,
think
right?
so,
The
yeah.
weathering and the knowledge of this business. Now, you have a lady that you're on stage with, and everybody that thinks of B.B. King thinks of Lucille. And interesting, a lot of people at home may not know how Lucille got named, and I was reading your press material. Give us a little bit of the background on that story, because it's kind of an interesting story there.
Well, I used to play a place in Arkansas. It's a little town called Twist, Arkansas. It's about 45 miles northwest of Memphis, Tennessee, in case if you know where Memphis is.
Right.
And I used to play there every Friday and Saturday night, Sundays too if it rained a lot of time because people didn't have to work the next day. So we just stay there and have a good time. Well, it used to get quite cold in Twist. So the little dance hall we played in would hold about 100 people if it was chugged in. They used to take something look like a big garbage pail, set it in the middle of the floor. They would half fill it with kerosene and they would light that fuel, and that's what we use for heat. And people generally would just dance around it and never disturb it. But this one particular night, two guys started to fight, and one of them knocked the other one over on this container. When they did, it spilled on the floor. So when it spilled on the floor, it looked like a river of fire. So everybody started running for the front door, including B.B. King. But then when I got on the outside, then I realized I'd left my guitar. I went back for it. So, excuse me, the building was a wooden building, so it started to collapse around me while I'm trying to get my guitar. Almost lost my life trying to save it. But the next morning, we found that these two guys was fighting about a lady that worked in the place, and I learned that her name was Lucille. I never did meet her, but I named my guitar Lucille to remind me never to do a thing like that again. That's how it came about. So I think you can get another guitar, but not another B.B. King. That's the reason for Lucille.
That's right. That's right. Well, there'll never be another B.B. King. Why are so many people able to relate to the blues, do you think, B.B.?
Well, for one thing, blues music usually is simple and it's true. Get right to the point. It doesn't paint a lot of beautiful pictures. It's really love in the raw, if you will. I like to think of blues as an elementary type of music, and when you play jazz, soul, rock, and the rest of it, it's kind of like going on off to college. But we all say the same things. Blues music to me is just a label to let you know, one from two to three or four. But back to the answer, it's a simple music and everybody usually can understand it. It's like the ABCs that young children learn first. We use it every day and don't pay much attention to it, but when you hear them singing the ABCs, it's very important to them. Same with us with blues. It's very important to us, but when most other people, they say, oh, that's three-chord changes. But I like to remind them that the artistry comes into playing blues where the three-chord changes. The artistry is keeping the interest of the listener. And so when you can do that with three-chord changes, when most of the others has got a chord for practically every beat,
Right.
then you've got to be doing pretty good, I think.
How would you describe your particular sound to someone that's been living in a cave for the past 50 years and knows nothing about the music?
Well, I would say that me personally, I think the blues purists wouldn't nominate me for a Grammy, I don't think. I'm afraid contemporary listeners wouldn't nominate me either. So I'm just a guy named B.B. King that plays the kind of music B.B. King feels, and I border the line of country, I border the line of soul, of jazz, of pop, rock, even gospel. I can border the line. I'm like, shall we say, a cork in the middle of a pond. I can just border the line of all the shores and never play either, but still be myself. So I would say to that person that had been away, just listen to B.B. King play a B.B. King style blues.
And then there'll be a fan right like that, right?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. Now, one of the things I was interested in reading about you, and this is a very cynical world that we live in today. I mean, you know, all across the world. How do you get people to see that we are our brother's keeper? I mean, how do you get that message across? Because I was reading about you, and is it through music? Is it through what you're saying? How do you get people to understand that message?
Well, yes, I think so, because, well, I read once, well, music soothes the savage beast, and I think there's a little beast in all of us, and I think music generally soothes that. It's a rare person to find that don't like some type of music. And I think music does more to bring people together than politics and anything else maybe you could mention. Even money don't bring people together as much as music does. I think as we've traveled, I was in the Soviet Union, I've gone to 57 different countries in the world, and I've found that when I get there, the people, you're not looking for anything, you know, materially other than friendship or an ear to listen. And people show their affection and their friendship for you right then. You're not the ugly American, if you will. You're a person, an American person that's playing music, and generally they get right in with you. You're not trying to, you know, change them from playing their style of music or what have you, but you're just offering your kind. This is what we do back at home. This is not the only kind of music we have in America. We got many kinds. This is just one of them, and we're playing it for you. And people generally, whether we are abroad or at home, will listen and most times enjoy.
As they did tonight.
Yes.
There in the Apollo Theater where
Yes.
you played
Right.
your first time, what, 20?
Yeah, it's been a very
years
long
ago?
time. I can't remember how long it's been, but it's been a
Long
long
time ago.
time. And by the way, this is 41 years I'm going into trying to be a showman.
Trying to be? You
Yes.
haven't mastered that yet?
No.
Really? When are you gonna know if you mastered it?
I wonder if I ever will.
Yeah, yeah. What have you enjoyed wrapping up here? What have you enjoyed most about being B.B. King, do you think, after these 40, into the 41st year?
I think it's the love of people. I remember reading somewhere where Mr. Ford said once, I'm at the automobile manufacturer. I remember reading once where Mr. Ford said if he went broke and if he could borrow $1 from each one of his employees, he still would be a millionaire. Well, I think if I could borrow, you know, $1 from all of my friends, I think I could be a millionaire too, because I think I've got a lot of friends all around the world. And that is the one thing that's very important to me, because I love people and I love to play for them, and to receive love in return is a thing that I think keeps me, as Rod Stewart's song, forever young.
Yeah, well, you are forever young, and I don't think you have to worry about lack of love from the audiences you entertain from all across the world, and thank you for stopping by.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you very
you.
much.